So we're going to pretend the cameras aren't here, but we're really aware that they are. I'm Caroline Henry, I'm your Police and Crime Commissioner for Nottinghamshire, and today we've got an accountability board meeting with a public item about responding to the digital beat. We just go around and introduce ourselves. Julia?
I'm Gillian Holder, Commissioner's Chief Finance Officer.
I'm Mark Kimberley and I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Chief Constable.
Okay, I'm our Chief Constable.
Leona Skur, Detective Chief Superintendent, Head of Crime and Specialist Ops.
Thank you. And you're here today to particularly talk to this topic,
Yes.
which we know is really affecting the public. Yeah. I'm just going to let you kick off if that's all right.
Okay, no problem. So this afternoon I just want to tell you about our response to policing the digital beat. So that includes fraud, cybercrime and most importantly online safety. So currently the public loses billions of pounds every year to fraud. It's a huge problem, represents about 40% of all crime. And this can range from tricks, scams to more sophisticated crime. So the particular crimes that are affecting us here in Nottingham are compromise of social media accounts where people's data has been stolen to commit further offences, romance fraud, people believing that they're in a relationship with somebody online and giving away life savings, and we're planning for February obviously and Valentine's Day, so we're doing lots of communication around that's up and coming. Doorstep crime where vulnerable people will be conned into things on their doorstep, or courier fraud, and then just hacking as well to steal data. So we need to make sure that we have the right resources in the right place and the right technology to deal with all of that in a local Nottinghamshire context. So I just talk about our structure, our setup and our governance.
Yeah, thank you. I'll just introduce to camera because we're being filmed today.
Okay.
Let you introduce yourself, Dan.
I'm Dan Howitt, I'm the Head of Strategy and Performance at the OPCC.
Okay, so I spoke about everything in a local context, and that's important to put it in the context of criminal justice as well at the moment. So some backlogs within the Crown Courts. Yeah. So we, the police, want to make sure that we are match fit to get our evidence right the first time. We don't cause any more delays in the criminal justice system, and our evidence isn't challenged. So we have a digital forensics unit that's currently going through ISO accreditation. So that means our evidence has been captured in the right way, and hopefully will stand up to any challenge. So that's where we are at the minute.
I know there's been some big investments in that area.
There has. So we're hoping to get everything accredited probably by June this year. So we've got a governance board making sure that we're going in the right direction and we're on time with that. So that's all really positive, and very happy where that's going at the minute. So we will soon be accredited to examine computers, phones, and CCTV. So.
Yeah, and one of the advantages of doing that here, it can speed things up.
It can.
And actually, I remember Mr. Guildford back in the day, it was invest to save. If we could do it here rather than send a lot of things away, he was really keen to make that happen.
Yeah, so we've got a performance framework is now in place that's reported on. So we've got service level agreements for priority turnaround times as well. So really reassuring that we can meet our SLAs. So coming back to your point, that local, we can, phone up and say you need to push this one through because this victim's vulnerable, so that's a real benefit as well. So we're monitoring our performance, and now the hub has joined with the cyber team as well, so we've got it all under one laboratory conditions and cyber hub. So we've got a multimedia evidence unit, which means we can present all of this evidence as well in a visual format and get that to prosecutors so they can see it and understand it, because most of the problem is getting a layperson to understand the evidence that we've extracted. And we just to balance this as well with our innovation. So, we've got real-time work to do, but we do like to explore what's out there. So we're working with police digital services to trial new packages that will speed up what we do, because we can't keep putting people into problems. It's using the technology as best we can as well. And a real benefit as well for everything being in-house is we can now do 3D modelling of crime scenes. So again, we don't have to outsource that and incur a cost. So that's where we are with our setup.
Thank you.
So next slide, please. I'll just talk about cybercrime then. So probably 50% of our crimes that are tagged with a cybercrime flag are stalking and harassment. So a big problem, victims feel like they cannot escape from perpetrators. So that's one real problem of the cyberspace. It just means that reach that offenders can have towards victims. So the kind of crimes that we're seeing that are cyber enabled are stalking, blackmailing, intimate images being hacked into and shared, and then people, you know, feel at their wits' end as to how they're going to escape this. So a big focus from us on safeguarding, and just trying to remove the stigma around cybercrime and fraud, really, so people do speak up about it and get the help they need.
It really can happen to anybody, can't it?
It can, yeah. It doesn't discriminate at all.
And the criminals that are doing it are so clever and make it, you know, it's really, really easy to get, you know, to get in bother.
It is, yeah. But, you know, that's one, the downside of the internet and digital, but the benefit is we're on top of it, so we can now get into, you know, accounts, we can track, we can trace, we can seize assets now. Organised crime groups are moving online thinking we can't find them, but, you know, we have got those tools to track their assets, and, you know, this year we've recovered £600,000 in criminal assets through our money laundering team, and we are one of few forces that has a money laundering team.
Yeah. Sorry, Mark, this might be a question, but how much of that do we get to keep? Of the £600,000?
So that comes into the ARIS fund, and I can't remember how.
It depends which route it goes through. So some we keep 25% of, some we get a larger amount. So you'd have to go back and see how which route it came to. But we will get a share of that.
Yeah, great to invest more into this area.
The other side is normally it takes a while from us saving it for it to come back to us. But yeah, we do get a percentage of that.
Sorry, Fu.
So next slide, please. So if I just explain where we are with our fraud. So yes, the volume of fraud means we need to focus on preventing it and protecting people from being victims of fraud. So fraud can seem quite confusing, but we have one method of reporting fraud, and that's through action fraud. All police forces have signed up to Single Online Home, so if you go onto our website now, there's some very clear tiles that lead you through, but not everybody knows that. So, you know, we're really pleased with the fraud partnership that's been brought in, because that's our opportunity to explain to partners how they can explain to their service users and hold their hand through reporting fraud. Because some people will get refunds from their bank but then not go on to report it, so we're missing a huge swathe of intelligence there, really. So I've reviewed all of our crime plans, and our focus is on protecting the public and preventing this from happening in the first place. So like I say, our fraud partnership was set up at the back end of last year, and you know, we're just really excited, and I've spoken to the teams and they're really excited about that, because to them it's more resources to help them do what they need to do. And the fraud toolkit booklet as well, we're working with partners such as undertakers, really, because that's when people become vulnerable. So hard copy booklets of that are going out, but we're also developing it into an online version as well that we can share through the fraud partnership. So some real exciting stuff to come through that. And then tackling fraud and cyber, if we go on to the next slide, we can't do it on our own. So under the fraud strategy, we need to make sure that all crime fighting agencies are linked up. So, you know, we really welcome the Online Safety Act that's come into place, which pushes some of the onus back on platforms to take down material that's harmful. What is disappointing though is Meta that said they're going to put end-to-end encryption on, which means they can't see what's on their platforms now. But we're already working with TOEX, so TOEX is tackling exploitation, and they work within the ROCU, and they're already searching some platforms and reporting into us, into the Vulnerability Hub, where they feel that there's crimes that we need to go and act on, and also sharing intelligence with us. So I'm really pleased that we're joined up through the region and nationally as well. And like I say, our Prevention Hub, it's a multidisciplinary partnership where all of our crime prevention activity takes place. We have a prevention board, so this is where I'll give assurance around all of our protect and prevent activity for fraud and cyber. And then our teams work with the school's intervention officers and the neighbourhood PCSOs to help deliver those protect messages through Operation Signature.
I think it's just worth just a few more words on Operation Signature. I know what it is, but for the public, for those vulnerable people who have who've needed that extra scaffolding and wraparound, would you just like to explain what it is?
Certainly. So we get referrals every week now that we go through every single one of them, and we look for where there's people that are vulnerable that need that extra support from the police, or it could be from Age Concern as well. So we have trained our front line on how to deliver safeguarding and support to really vulnerable people, and this can be from giving out phone blockers, helping them protect all of their passwords and data, and we'll spend some real time with them going through all of this. But clearly on a first visit, spending an hour with someone isn't going to change the habits of a lifetime. So it's a real engagement opportunity to then bring in other agencies that can then work with people.
Because I've spoken with people who have benefited from the support with Operation Signature, because they were really scared that they had been scammed, they were going to be scammed again, and actually once you've been scammed once, you are more vulnerable to being scammed again. People,
and some people don't realise that they are being scammed as well, and it just sometimes takes another agency and another voice to reinforce our message. So just to summarise then, just want to reassure you that our governance is in place around the scrutiny of what we're doing to make sure we've got the right assets, the right technology, and that we're investing in the right places, making sure we aren't just pursuing offenders, because really we need to concentrate on protecting the public as well, to look after themselves. Making sure that through our performance framework we are treating fraud and cybercrime as a priority, and we are. It's one of our highest scoring threats, so our objective is to bring that risk down. Investing in protect capacity, using partners as well. I've already mentioned Signature, which is our safeguarding approach, and we've got a really good intelligence-led system as well, so where agencies and banking report suspicious activity to us, our money laundering team will go out and act on that, and this is where we identify potential money mules, students that are at risk and not realising that they're letting money go through their accounts, and again we treat that as exploitation and deal with that through education and diversion, and excellent communication through what is now the fraud partnership. So
yes, that's a really good summary. Thank you very much. I just think for the public it's just worth really reiterating how to report fraud, and I know we're trying to increase knowledge of that through Nottinghamshire Fraud Partnership, but how are you working with them to do that?
So through the fraud partnership we're explaining how it goes through action fraud, and it's if partners have a report to them, it's then using the partners to then signpost as well, and using the partners to perhaps help people log onto the system to go through single online home. But if it's an emergency, just making sure that they do know that they can call 999 for an immediate response. And when we use action fraud, it's really important that the public know that you can log in as a guest or you can create an account, and we just want partners to encourage people to log in and make an account, because then you can get all your updates there as well.
I didn't realise that actually.
Yeah, you get a much fuller response and updates through that.
It's, I recently went to an event, it's called Silver Surfers. It's all about, officially it's meant to be helping people with the computers, but really it's more about companionship and cake. But they were really grateful for the Fraud Protect team that had been out to see them and advising them. But whilst I was there was a gentleman who Gordon, who showed me his phone, and on there was a really convincing text. It looked like it was from the post office. Looked like he'd got to pay a little bit of money for customs or something to get this parcel. But when I looked at it, it wasn't a proper website on there. It was to my eye, I could see, but it was really convincing.
Yeah. And that's what fraudsters do. They'll piggyback off brands, trusted brands, and try and convince people to part with money.
So when people get a text like that, should they be forwarding it to anybody? What would you advise?
Yeah. So again, definitely through single online home, because they will capture all of that information, and then we can quickly pick up trends, because trends move so quickly and differently around the country, and then we can get that intelligence back out and create a comms message to share with the public to protect themselves. So we just need that real up-to-date intelligence on scams. So please report it. Yeah.
Thank you. I hope you got that loud and clear. Please report. Right, we're back. Just to be really honest, we had a bit of technical problem with the camera overheating, and I was just getting some really good questions, so here we go again. I've got Detective Chief Superintendent Leona Skur, and the question I asked was about how best to report fraud.
Okay, so there's only one reporting mechanism for fraud, and that's through single online home if you want to come through the police on our website, and that'll lead you to action fraud. But if it's real and immediate risk, then obviously phone 999 if there's offenders still on the scene or somebody's vulnerable. And we're just working with our partners at the minute to clarify those reporting streams, because I know it can be confusing for some people, but it is through action fraud and through our website if it's slow time report, through single online home.
And I know how important it is for everybody to report. I was at an event called Silver Surfers recently. It's a lovely event that happens in Bramcote. It's all about companionship and getting together around computers, and lots of very nice cake. And there was a gentleman there called Gordon who showed me a text that he'd had which looked incredibly convincing. It looked like it was from the post office, asking him to pay a tiny bit of money, a couple of pounds, so he could access a parcel. And he was actually expecting a parcel, so he nearly clicked on it. But when he looked, we looked together, the website wasn't right. It wasn't a proper post office website. When people get that kind of text, which are really convincing, what would you suggest to do with them?
So we encourage all of that to be reported, even if you think that's quite minor. We just need that information and intelligence, because then we can work out which trends are moving around the country, because they do, and then we can put out warnings and alerts, and then give you advice on how to check if other websites are genuine, because fraudsters will piggyback off trusted known brands, so it is something to look out for.
It is, and I know you do put warnings and alerts out, and also a bit of a plea, it's really worth signing up to NOT's alert.
Definitely.
That's one of the ways that you get the message out to the public. Another question. As a growing area of criminality, how does the force assure itself that we've got the appropriate balance of resources available to tackle and prevent fraud and cybercrime versus the more traditional forms of criminality?
So it is always a balancing act, putting our resources in the right place, but we have a method called morale scoring. So that means we assess all of our crimes as to the impact on the public, the volume of the crime, and where we're at with our resourcing. So fraud and cybercrime is one of our priority crimes. So we have a monthly tasking meeting where we make sure that we're putting our resources in the right place to tackle fraud, and we reassess that score every 6 months, and making sure that we invest and have a good budget plan to make sure we've got the right technology to assist.
Thank you. What is being done to ensure that Nottinghamshire Police plays its part in delivering the commitments to the National Policing Strategy for Fraud, Economic and Cybercrime? That's the 23 to 28.
So because of the volume of fraud and cybercrime, we can't tackle this on our own.
Yeah.
So under the strategy, we need to make sure that we're joined up with partners. So we link in through the Regional Organised Crime Unit and into the National Crime Agency as well. And through that, we have access to some resources that are hosted in Nottinghamshire Police called the Proactive Economic Crime Team. So this is another arm of investigators we can refer serious fraud into, such as romance fraud or career fraud. So we really benefit from that service in Nottinghamshire, because we have such an advanced, sophisticated setup in force ourselves. You know, we can identify these crimes and pass them on to specialist investigators there. We also have a fraud triage unit as well, which is very sophisticated. So it means we're adhering to the strategy, reporting all of our crimes in, logging our outcomes, sending those returns back into the centre to make sure that all the crimes are recorded and reported on. We have a strong protect element to our fraud department, so it's not all about pursue. So we've got 3 dedicated safeguarding officers that work with national operations to work through a calendar of events around safeguarding, so for that maximum impact, because this sort of crime doesn't have a boundary. So if all forces are working together to the same calendar, it just maximises that impact and you know, spreads that messaging for the public.
So, I know there's something called cyber alarm. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so our cyber unit work with small businesses, and this is something that they businesses can have on their digital systems that'll sort of flag an alert to a central agency that if something suspicious activity is acting on their system. So the businesses that we work with that have been compromised, we really recommend Cyber Alert and get them signed up to that.
And
Cyber Alarm, sorry.
and East Midlands Cyber Resilience Centre, they do a lot of training, and a lot of that is free as well, isn't
Yes,
it? Which people and businesses and charities and schools can all access.
Yeah.
How are we learning from innovation and best practice in the way we engage with commuters on cyber and fraud prevention? I know that Yorkshire and Humberside, for example, have got a ban, which goes asked about.
So we're part of Team Cyber UK, so every week we meet up, so we get to hear about all the innovation and best practice, and then we make a decision as to whether that's something we want to take part in or whether we don't. So the particular I'll call it an engagement tool really that's been used in another force. We have seen and we've heard about, and it is great as an engagement tool, but we want to make sure we've got an evidence base to make sure that then after we've engaged and captured somebody's attention, they're listening to us and we're changing their behaviour. So this is where our fraud charter and fraud partnership works really well, because we've now got access to a whole host of data from private industry as well, who traditionally we think it's the elderly and students that are targeted, but there's that generation in the middle. So once we've got that data, we then want evidence base to what our engagement and prevention activity is going to be. So our preference at the moment would be to capture people's attention in a different way and then change their behaviour by putting two-factor authentication on devices, rather than just enticing people in and they go away but not having learnt something or changed their behaviour. So
I'm incredibly proud of the work that's happening through Nottinghamshire Fraud Partnership, and we're doing things together here. And thank you for all the partners that have got involved with us on that. Do you want to talk a little bit about two-factor authentication? Just in normal words. So
this is, you might be more familiar with it on your bank because they force you to do it. So it's where they send a message back to your phone. So then you've got to log in again effectively, which the public perhaps don't like because it slows you down, and everything today is about doing everything as quickly as possible, isn't it? So that's why people go, I'll sign up to that and do that when I get home. And perhaps they don't. So this is why we actually show people how to do it on their phone, so they can't be compromised.
Yeah, and the importance of really strong passwords.
Really strong passwords, yeah.
Thank you. You mentioned about the force money laundering team and the work they do to tackle money mules. I know that some really nasty, serious organised crime groups are involved with this. Do you want to say a little bit more about what we're doing?
Yeah, so this intervention, really, we have to get involved at school age as soon as people have a bank account, really, which can be as young as sort of 11, 12, 13, 14. So once they're online, they'll see adverts, make a quick bit of cash, or no questions asked, just do this. So people are then enticed in, and they're just asked to hold money in their accounts and then move it on, and they don't think they're doing anything wrong, but it's actually a serious crime. And then before they know it, lots of criminal assets are moving through their accounts. So these people are exploited. They're perhaps short of money, coming away as a student to a different city, want to keep up with that Instagram generation, really. And then the information that we get from private industry through suspicious activity requests shows strange movements in people's accounts, and that's where we can intervene and see what's going on and protect them and prevent them getting into further trouble and safeguard people.
Thank you. I've got a question from a member of the public here. Francesca from the Freedom Foundation, based in Nottingham City, asks, what provisions are currently being funded that work with young people in communities and school to raise awareness around the dangers of social media and how young people perceive themselves and understand their emotions? Quite specific.
This one, Commissioner.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, so we weren't aware of any funding in this area around what we can deliver. I am aware of the work that Freedom Foundation UK does. Having read the question, I took the opportunity to look online. There's some really good work being done around young people's physical and mental well-being. So That's a really good piece of work. But in terms of online safety, that's delivered through the Department of Education through PSHE lessons.
Yes.
So a lot of the deliveries there. But in terms of police offering, we do cyber advice through our school early intervention officers.
Yeah.
So through the annual safety zone events that we run. So we deliver it through them. And also the NCA does some work around cyber choices, which is a diversion programme. So there are some things that police can deliver, but that's complementing what already exists.
Thank you.
And I know there's a commission service through South around the equation that do some of
there
this
is.
work as well, so you'll be aware of that.
Yeah, thank you. So just the last thing for me on fraud really is, I know through our office we've put some money together to support the printing of a Fraud Protect booklet. And if people want to get hold of a Fraud Protect booklet, what is the best way of them doing that?
So we have got a version of it online, and we've got hard copies as well, and I've seen them at front counters, so you can drop in and get one at the front counter, or request it through another service that you use, because we are sharing these out for the public to get their hands on, and it's a really helpful booklet and covers all types of fraud and cybercrime, and really simplifies it for everybody.
It does. Thank you so much. I hope that's really been helpful for the public to see how seriously we're taking policing the digital beat here in Nottinghamshire.